raced in 1989 to one of the greatest athletes, Mark Allen. In that particular race, we were neck and neck. We finished the 2.5 miles. Mark was on my feet, but he was right there, and that's illegal. Around the bike, he was always behind me. There was a couple times on the bike that I said, I'm going to try to accelerate and drop him. But that didn't work. Came through the transition, T2, and started out on the run, and we were side by side for 24 miles. And I had a game plan. My plan was at the top of the hill at 24.5, I was going to break Mark. Mark had another plan. At the bottom of the hill, he was going to break me. And as we started at the base of this hill, which was really about a mile, Mark made his move, and I said, I gotta go. And my first thought was, wait a second, Mark, I'm gonna do that to you. Come back here. But he didn't listen. And for each step that he took, he was gaining 6 inches. We got to the top of the hill, and he had about 30 seconds on me. And we finished that race 50 seconds apart, 18 minutes under my world record at that time. And, you know, to this date, it has become quite an historic race. People always talk about it. People remind me that you can see it on YouTube. No thanks. I'll talk more about my victories. I came across the finish line, obviously, very distraught about losing. I'm a ferocious competitor, the first time that I lost to Mark. And there was a woman who had followed my career way back in the 70s when I was doing open water swims, first triathlon in 76, first Ironman victory in 1980, and she was in the media enclave as we came across the line. And as I came across the finish line, she was one of the first persons that I bumped into, very short in stature, about 4'10", and she was just sobbing, absolutely sobbing. And she looked up at me and she said, Dave, hey, you lost. That's really profound. I turned to her and I said, Carol, I didn't lose. Mark had a fantastic race. I had a great race. Yes, in hindsight, I could have done a number of things differently. Maybe the outcome could have changed. But on that particular day, we both had great races. And I said, no, I didn't lose. And I think my point to all of you is that I've been to so many team and train races in the last 9 years of being fortunate to be the national coach of this program, which really doesn't mean anything more than just a title, because your coaches are really your coaches. And they continually do a great job, fabulous job. But I think the message is that in watching team and train athletes over 9 years, the back end of these races is predominantly the tail end. The final athletes finishing the course are team and train athletes. Are they any less successful than the first man or woman that crosses the finish line? Not at all. Not at all. The finish, if you have an opportunity to get to the finish tomorrow and you can hear the energy of this group, you are all successful, and your journey to get this far is gigantic. You've already made a huge successful turn in not only supporting the organization, but for yourselves. And I think sometimes you need to sit back and reflect on this. Lastly, in this 1994 race that I did, I have a very close friend who's followed me to all the races. He comes and sort of choreographs for family and friends are going to be to give me times and splits. And they sort of work the entire island, and really by the end of the day, they're more exhausted than I am. My friend Pat had brought his wife, Leanne, over to the race. We were classmates going all the way back to 12 years old. Pat sat down in the room the night before the race, and I was more nervous about the race just listening to Pat giving instructions to family and friends. You've got to be out here for David, he's going to be here, such and such. I said, God, Pat, all I'm doing is just an Ironman, it's no big deal. He turns to Leanne, his wife, and he says to her, Leanne, you need to be at these checkpoints on the bike, you need to be at these checkpoints on the run, make sure you give them the splits, da-da-da. And she looked at him very befuddled. And she was with a close friend of hers, And she said to Pat, she said, Pat, we're going to go sightseeing, and we're going to go up to see the volcanoes during the race tomorrow, but we'll see David at the end. And he looked at her just totally aghast, like, how can you let him down? And finally she said, and this is for all of you, your friends and family will always love you. They won't forget you. It doesn't matter how you do or how fast your time is, just do what you can do. All the best tomorrow. I'll be out there cheering for you.